The Everyman Radio Podcast.
New music.
Tell me that you wanna stay, baby, just don't walk away. I need you now, fade it out. All the time we spent alone, fighting through the firestorm. Don't let me down, I need you now. Cause I'm feeling worn out, it's getting to me. Lost some heart trying to get on my feet. Caught in the madness, I feel you somehow. Don't let me go, I need you right now. I wanna be next to you, you wanna be next to me. Holding our paper hearts, fading out broken dreams. I wanna be next to you, you wanna be next to me. Holding our paper hearts, fading out broken dreams. I wanna be next to you.
Everybody to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Hi, Damon. Welcome to Everyman Radio.
Rich, looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, and yourself, great. So, just looking at your bio very quickly, but you're a search engine marketing expert. Is that what you'd phrase yourself as?
Yeah, so I got into the world of web design about 20 years ago, and
Okay.
And then a few years into that, I experimented with some SEO on some design clients and had some good results. And I said, that's my thing. And so for the last 13 years, that's where I've been.
Yeah, fantastic. So, no, that's a good skill. It's funny because I started off teaching so teaching IT, but my bit of hobby was, because I was teaching computers, my hobby was web design. So I would develop websites, and so learned a bit of this SEO phrase that would pop up now and again, and the different companies, people that provide that service. Yeah. No, I think it's very, very important. I think, especially what I'm doing now. So with Everyman Radio, for example, increasing the reach of it, and well, I'll just call it that, the reach of it, but then also professionally for the businesses that I run. And yeah, exactly the same thing. So, I'm tempted just to ask, here's my stuff, sort it out, please.
Yeah.
But
well,
I know, what is it? How do you do it?
There's a lot that goes into it, but if you kind of simplify it, it's largely a popularity contest, right? So, the more that other websites talk about you and mention you, or the better content you have, the better product you have, at the end of the day, Google and other major search engines, they want to show websites that make Google look good, right? Because then if they send the right answer to the searcher, then that searcher is going to come back. Google gets more advertising revenue. So the better content you can provide, the more mobile friendly the website, the more intuitive and user friendly, then Google's going to rank your website higher. And we can get into talking about a whole bunch of technical stuff, but if you condense it, it's two things. So the first thing is kind of what we just touched on. How effective is your website? Rich, when you go to a website, you don't like when it's slow. So then Google's going to ding you if it's slow. So take care of that. And then after that, though, it's largely about building up your reputation, your credibility. So, are you the best in what you offer? Are you the best in what you sell? And you can only show up on search engines for what Google can read. And so you have to talk about those things, talk about why your service is amazing, talk about the product you offer and the unique problems that it solves for the buyers. So the more that you can just make Google look good, the more they're going to return the favor.
Yeah, it's good. And makes me chuckle, because I'm going all businessy really, and I'm thinking, so in terms of revenue, what I am trying to do is promote my web hosting service. So I have two, webscontent.com and makohosting.com. So they're two web hosting services, and they both are very similar, but they both do use I can't even remember. They use a light speed server, so they are faster than the majority, I would say, of other websites. But the trap I fall into, in a way, is just the tagline I have: fast, secure, reliable. That's it. So I can't just blurt that out constantly because it doesn't really mean anything after a while.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is you mentioned that you have two websites. So from an SEO perspective, that may be the first hurdle that you need to overcome. So do you offer anything different between the two domains? Is there any different value proposition, or are they the same packages, the same service?
So with webscontent.com, it's more aimed, I would say, at education, trainers, training providers, and the what I call high-end Mako hosting. I'm just still kind of working through it and sorting it out to make it more unique, but it will offer free. You sign up and you get free web design, a free website as part of the package, because it's going to be much more expensive. So that was the idea, to make it worth that extra money. if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah. So what you want to, excuse me, you talking about how that website's more tailored towards education and training providers. So those are the things that you want to emphasize. So, the industry that you're in has a lot of competition. There's a lot of different hosting choices that are out there. And so you need to pick a target demographic, a target customer, and then cater your message towards that person. So when you do content or videos or blogs, you need to talk about why your hosting services is ideal for training providers. And so talk about, you talked about you're secure and reliable and fast. So kind of massage those into, we're secure when you're providing, training content, then we're the best solution because we know your world and we provide the things that you need to maximize your web presence. And so what you want to focus on is you need to pick an audience, because if you just cast your net too wide, then you don't stand out uniquely to anybody. So it'd be better to monetize one specific audience and grow with that audience than to try and target everybody and not grow at all.
Yeah, that sounds good. I suppose in a way, it's similar to the questions about promoting everyman radio, for example. It is, just by its nature, it is very general. So interviews, alternative news, comedy, music.
Right.
So it is a kind of catch-all. So I can sort of interview, and I do have sort of very interesting interviews here with all different types of guests. And I quite like that.
Sure.
But I know there are alternative podcasts, for example, that are very, very specific, and I think a bit weird and not very interesting. But no, they have their place. Yeah.
Well, that's actually intentional that you find it weird and not interesting. And so what they've done is they've picked their audience. And so there's actually good in eliminating the non-ideal customer, because then if you tailor it to a specific audience, then you attract that ideal customer. Now, a podcast is different because, depending on what you want to do with your podcast, if it's for your own personal enjoyment, then that's fine. Then have the broad audience, and then you can talk to interesting people, like you said. But, when it comes to anything business related, if you go too broad, then you don't connect and relate to an audience. And so it doesn't scale very well.
Yeah, I yeah, I think really for me it's this in the fun category. So the business the web hosting I talk about is more the kind of where I expect profit and revenue,
right,
and income. And this, I never really saw it as a money-making venture. But of course, I'd like to keep it to stay afloat, to cover its costs and what have you. So in terms of a way forward, I'm just thinking, it's pleasure. I just enjoy it.
Well, podcasts are different than online, because with podcasts, you either do it for business or you do it for personal enjoyment. And so if you do it for business, then you have to pick how you're going to monetize it. And you only have so many options with monetizing podcasts. One is you monetize the audience. So you build up a popular enough podcast, then you can charge to access the content. The other way is you can monetize with advertisers. So likewise, you have to have a large listener base for people to be willing to pay you money. Or the other way, which I'm not a big fan of, is you monetize the guests. And so then you reach out to people and say, hey, I have a decent listenership. Do you want to pay a $50 or $100 feature, and then I'll have you on as a guest. So there are different ways to monetize podcasts, but the problem you run into, like you said, is if you do it for personal enjoyment, then you're going to end up limiting your audience, or you're going to start to dilute the personal enjoyment that you have in it, because then it becomes a business thing.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. I find it interesting watching it though. Sorry, I'm just thinking at the same time. I suppose that's a basic fundamental. We're kind of supposed to as humans. Yeah, that's a kind of basic instinct. But Yeah, obviously not thinking very well because I've completely forgotten what I'm talking about. But yeah, one of the, I suppose, media is just an interesting field in itself, especially in times like these, where we have a kind of government narrative on how to behave, how to lock down this COVID thing, be scared, yada, yada, yada. And then you have a kind of truth-seeking, truth-telling kind of audience who seem to find the researchers, doctors who are actually working with it and actually understand it. But it's the same with anything. So especially like election, your mate Trump. So, so okay. Is it September? You have an election now?
November.
November. So it's coming up, and I just assume he'll get elected again. Well, that's my tip. It's not even, what am I talking about? Tip. It's a silly thing to say. I just thought about that earlier the year, but just where it's going to go. There'll be election, but it's utterly pointless because the Liberals are, I don't know, they just seem crazy to me. Just seem to be all promoting and joining this Black Lives Matter protesting, and I don't really know what they're doing really. But they still seem to be business orientated, rather like the Democrats, and seem to have lost what they actually should stand for as liberals and being for the people. But that's Clinton's fault, who sold her soul to the devil.
Politics is a whole other thing. I mean, I don't know how we got from search engines to politics.
No, I don't know either. Yeah, it's a good point. But I think just really in terms of information and advertising, and what adverts I see a lot on the internet, which are sort of promoted and monetized by alternatives. So on podcasts and promoting podcasts, for example, which are more viewed, I think. But there's certainly a competition on which gets allowed more airtime in that political spectrum, I think. I don't know. Am I talking nonsense?
Well, I think what you're trying to say is that even in politics, there's a business message often behind it. And I think that can be said about most things. I mean, even, I worked 7 years in radio. Okay. And what people have to realize is radio and TV and magazines, at the end of the day, they're all a business. So yeah, there's likely favoritism in a lot of ones, because then sure, they want the advertising dollar, but they also want to represent a certain audience. So it's kind of the same thing we talked about earlier. They chose an audience, and for better or worse, that there's politics can get in there as an advertising medium too. But politics is a whole other thing. But yeah, there's certainly an opportunity to present it as a business.
Mm. Oh yeah, no, I'd agree with you there. It does feel like that with me. And so, how are you coping with the current situation? Sorry, whereabouts are you exactly in the States?
I'm in Utah.
Oh, okay. Utah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I can see your mind running through all the stereotypes.
No. I've been there. So, oh yeah, it was a long time ago, but I went to a very cool party because I was living in the States when I was studying. It was 20 years ago, and we drove over in this van to Utah on our way to just the different national parks.
Yeah.
And in things I remember at Utah, I think there was the religious thing. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah. Utah is known for
the Moomins. No.
The what? No, the dominant religion in Utah is Mormon.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I call them Moomins because that's a kind of a British TV show called The Moomins that was many, many years ago. That this probably has more sense to me anyway than the Mormons. Anyway, they're a funny bunch. Where I am in the UK, I think we have Mormons here. But anyway, but of course you keep out of that, or it's just a place to live for you and work.
Yeah, I like Utah. I've done my fair share of traveling, and there's, like you said, capital parks. Utah has the most national parks out of all the states. The scenery here is awesome. So yeah, I think I'll always call it home. I like to travel and get out, but at the end of the day, the stability that Utah has is something enjoyable.
Mm. Yeah, that's great. And so, how do you find customers yourself, or is that a silly question? Or who are your main customers? Do you work for specific industries yourself?
Yeah.
Or
Well, I've been fortunate enough to build a successful agency where 90% of our business is from referrals. So we've been fortunate enough to work with established businesses, and they kind of, once you drive results, they kind of welcome you into their inner circle and connect you to their other business acquaintances. So the majority of our business is definitely based on our track record.
okay, no, that sounds great. And I suppose, have you seen any changes? I don't know what the situation is in Utah regarding COVID, but I know in England, it's just this lockdown has caused a lot of problems with businesses shutting down, and causing lots of financial problems.
There's been, I think what everybody is going through is pretty global. Utah, relatively speaking, seems like it's been, it's certainly been impacted. I don't want to say it hasn't been impacted, but I think it's been a little less impacted than some other places. But there are definitely industries and businesses that have the same financial problems. And the type of clients that we work with, it's been interesting to see the whole. On one side we have the businesses that were understandably impacted, and then on the other side, some of the clients that focus in the online space are growing more than ever. So we see this wide spectrum of different types of impact, but for the most part, it seems like it's pretty consistent with the rest of the world.
Okay, that sounds good. And so in terms of advertising, I know it's expensive. Just the different things that I try, it's a constant cost. And it seems to me that the companies that do very well, get very well known, are the ones that have the big bucks. But so for a typical, say, a small business, what proportion do you think they should spend on, let's say, optimizing their website, as opposed, or just paying for straight Facebook videos and advertising that way? Or what do you think?
It depends on the industry, because it's not that paid ads are necessarily bad. If they're driving a positive return, then you can do that and optimization. There's advantages and disadvantages to both. The advantages to paid ads are they're quicker, but the disadvantage is that you always have to pay for them. And then if more people fight for those words, then that increases the cost. But the opposite to that is search engine optimization. The only downside to SEO is that it takes time to do all those reputation, credibility things we talked about. But if you have enough patience for all of that to kick in, then the nice thing is you don't have an adjustable budget. You pay your management fee for the SEO company to build your content and do all the things that they do. And so as that takes more effect, your cost stays the same, but your return continues to increase. So it depends on if you have more time or more budget, or if you have the patience to start SEO. But usually once it kicks in, most of our clients, they're their organic traffic, their SEO influence traffic makes up 60 to 80% of their sales.
That seems very, very high.
Yeah.
Am I right? You say,
Well, it's probably high compared to other options if you haven't put in the time to do SEO. Yeah.
okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking more, yeah, I suppose I'm more thinking specifically, say a post on Facebook, which is very different, but I just know, look, a post on Facebook is essentially no one reads it or ever sees it unless you're paying Facebook to actually promote it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Social media platforms don't want the visitors leaving their website. So when you post about content or link to your website, it's at a disadvantage to Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram, because if they leave the website, then they may not come back. So they don't really promote anything that encourages people to leave their website.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going forward then, do you have any big projects that you're working on at the moment that you're are taking up most of your time, or that are very exciting coming up?
Not necessarily. Pretty standard stuff for the next few weeks. I kind of just got through the big project. I just finished 2 years of working on a book about SEO, and so I just published that about 2 months ago.
Oh wow!
So yeah, so I'm gonna get back to the normal grind now.
No, that sounds great. What's your book called?
It's called Outrank. It's on Amazon, or I'm doing free downloads for the next couple of weeks at freeseobook.com.
Okay, that sounds great. I'm gonna have to have a look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll tell you some good stories, and it kind of gives you those ins and outs that we talked about earlier about the two categories of SEO, and it's pretty much the blueprint of what we do at our agency, but then adjusted to be in a book format.
No, it sounds good. And how are your podcast interviews going? I imagine you do quite a few.
Yeah, I've consistently done. I've been doing podcasts for quite a while, so I do 1 or 2 a week.
Okay. And how did you fall into that? Is that just really because you understand that what you know about SEO is important and people benefit from it? And
yeah,
it just people want to know about it. Is that just how it?
Yeah, I'll get invited to a lot of business and entrepreneur podcasts, and I'll either talk about SEO or I'll kind of talk about my journey of starting an agency, and we'll talk about different things. For example, I've had my agency for 13 years, but all my employees are remote, and I just this year, right before COVID happened, I met some of my team for the first time, and so I've had employees for more than 10 years, and I've never met them. So I'll often go talk about how do you manage a remote team. So yeah, it's fun to get on a podcast and just talk about the journey and help other people out.
Yeah. No, it sounds good. I'm just trying to think then. What how do you wind down? How do you keep yourself sane? Music, or do you listen to, or do you exercise, work out? Oh, you play the guitar.
Actually, the guitar is new. I don't play the guitar. I picked it up. I picked it up to learn. Yeah, but I've been one of the fortunate ones when COVID hit. I've actually become more busy, and so I haven't had the opportunity to pick it up. But as far as downtime, a good example would be this weekend. We have a little lake property, and so took my wife and kids up to the lake and went kayaking, and I try to get away from technology after work hours.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And that's a very healthy thing.
Yeah.
I try, and so one of the main reasons I do this podcasting, Everyman Radio, is just to give me a break from working with web hosting, noughts and bytes and bits and ones and
Yeah.
Just a change of scene, really. And yeah, it works quite well, that balance. But
Yeah. It's nice. I like technology as much as I need to use it, and then beyond that, it's nice to kind of detach a little bit. So, Rich, I'm going to jump off here in a second. I got another meeting I'm going to go to.
Yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you. Anything else I can help you with before I go?
No, you've really helped enough, and I'm going to check out your book. That sounds great. So I really appreciate your time, and I wish you all the best of luck.
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate the invite.
No, it's great. Take care.
Thanks, Rich. We'll see you.
Yeah, cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Are you ready? I'm saying, are you ready?
Text EMR to 63333 to win an awesome Everyman Radio mug.
New music.
I'll be a warm place to lay when you're feeling cold, and I'll be all in when you wanna fold. When we're dancing life's dance, you'll be the partner I hold. You and me together growing old. When you're mourning, I'll mourn for your sadness and pain. When you're happy, you'll put a smile on my face. I won't be perfect, but I promise I'll try every day for you. And I will be, yeah, I will be, I will be whatever you need me to be. I'll be the butt of a joke if it means we both laugh. The unaware, bunny-eared man in the photograph. I'd give the whole of my heart if it means you get half. Darling, please, will be my better half. And I will be, yeah, I will be, I will be whatever you need me to be. On our wedding day, when you're pregnant and afraid, when that baby graduates and moves too far away, when our parents pass away and our own hairs turn to gray, when all that's left of me is this song, then I will be, yeah, I will be, I will be whatever you need. Yeah, I will be,
Thank you for listening to Everyman Radio. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends on social media.
Goodbye.